The first episode begins with the gods eagerly awaiting the selection of the chosen one for the S-rank world-saving mission. The goddess of restoration, Jita, is the lucky one tasked with this responsibility. Outwardly, she is happy and confident that she will complete it quickly to become a true goddess. However, deep down, she is frustrated and rushes home to lament the extreme difficulty of the mission. Jita was born in the world about 100 years ago, and since then she has summoned heroes from Earth to save suffering worlds 5 times. Compared to other gods, Jita's achievements are like a shrimp next to a lobster. By the way, an S-rank difficulty means that the world is so terrifying that even seasoned gods are daunted. As usual, she carefully selected candidates from Japan, as the theme of reincarnation and isekai with demon lord storylines is very popular there, making it easier for Jita to explain the situation to the candidates. The selection process was exhausting for Jita because she could only choose one person to summon to the world as a hero, so she had to be very cautious. However, no matter how many candidates she reviewed, they all seemed the same, which made Jita frustrated. In a moment of carelessness, she fell to the floor, and a candidate's application accidentally hit her face, nearly suffocating her. Upon closer inspection, Jita was surprised to find that the stats of the candidate named Zera were incredibly high. He was a rare talent, 1 in 100 million. She believed that with him, the mission to defeat the demon lord would be as easy as pie, and she would soon ascend to the rank of a great goddess. Excited, she rushed to the summoning room, drew the magic circle, and performed the spell to summon Zera. He appeared immediately, a cool and impressive young man. Jita quickly fixed her hair and had a brief daydream about a romantic relationship between them, but then she quickly snapped back to reality, remembering that gods and mortals couldn't have such relationships. She then introduced herself as a goddess to Zera. "You are the chosen one to become the hero and save the world of Gabon from the demon lord," Jita declared. Seeing Zera standing there, silently staring at her, she thought he was mesmerized by her divine beauty. However, when Zera opened his mouth, he asked, "Why did some crazy person suddenly appear and start talking nonsense?" Jita tried to keep her composure and introduced herself again, but Zera questioned why she, as a goddess, didn't just save the world herself, as it would be faster. Jita explained that there were rules in place preventing deities from directly intervening in the human world. Zera quickly asked about the right to refuse, the right to act independently, and the possibility of changing the rules. However, Jita firmly denied all of these options. Thinking he was just confused, she asked Zera to try stating his status to see his abilities in terms of stats. Zera sighed and said he would check his attributes himself, but Jita insisted that he say them aloud. Reluctantly, Zera complied, giving in to her pleas. Zera's stats were several times higher than those of ordinary heroes, making him the chosen one to defeat the Demon King. When Zera asked what would happen if he ended up in another world, Jita reassured him that he would only be transported back to his own world. However, Zera was skeptical and didn't fully trust Jita's words. To convince him, Jita opened a portal to show him the new world, but Zera refused, stating that only a fool would willingly enter an unknown world without any knowledge. Desperate, Jita pleaded with him, assuring him that she would be there to support him. Suddenly, Zera pinned Jita against the wall and laid out his conditions. Seeing Zera take off his shirt, Jita initially thought he was about to make a romantic move, but it turned out he just wanted to do push-ups until he felt ready to go. It was then that Jita remembered Zera was an extremely cautious person, a detail she had overlooked. Frustrated, Jita vented to her senior, the ceiling goddess Aja. Although Aja advised that being cautious wasn't a bad thing, Jita felt that Zera was wasting time. Aja reassured her that time in the divine realm moved differently, and that the real issue was making sure Zera was well supported. She suggested that Jita should focus on providing better care for Zera, noting that his current accommodations were lacking basic amenities like a proper shower, toilet, and bed. Before Jita could leave, Aya reminded her not to act superior towards Zera but to treat him as a friend. Taking this advice to heart, Jita hurried back and was immediately hit by the strong smell of durian coming from Zera's room, making her mouth water. However, she realized it wasn't her place to complain since it was her home, not his. Thinking Zera might be hungry, Jita kindly brought him some rice balls. Suspicious, Zera insisted Jita eat first, fearing she might have drugged the With no other option, Jita went to set up a shower and bed for him, still puzzled about how doing sit-ups could improve his stats. She decided to leave the rice balls outside Zera's door, hoping he would eat them later. Jita told Zera to ring the bell with her picture on it whenever he felt ready. Zera, however, was wary, thinking it might be a trick or a way to spy on him. Thus, Jita left in frustration. Days passed, and after waiting 4 days with no sign of the bell ringing, she grew increasingly concerned that something might have happened to Zera. Despite this, she found that Zera had eaten all the food left outside his door. When the bell finally rang, she was thrilled and hurried to find Zera. Just then, Zera had just finished showering. Putting aside her feelings, Jita asked about his training progress. To her surprise, Zera had leveled up rapidly just from his intense physical training. Moreover, Zera also learned new skills, and though he wanted to max out his level, Jita couldn't wait. She opened the portal to Gabon, and once Zera felt ready, she pulled him through. The first task was to find equipment for Zera in the town of Azona. As they walked, Jita greeted the friendly townspeople. Zera was confused by her casual attitude while wearing such revealing clothes, and began to suspect the old man they met might be a disguised monster, which annoyed Jita. A little girl, impressed by Jita's goddess-like appearance, was amazed and made her happy. The girl also thought Zera looked cool, asked his name, and introduced herself as Nina. Since Jita was busy, she asked Nina for the location of the town's equipment shop. She gave Zera a large amount of money to buy the best gear available. Upon entering the shop, Zera immediately decided to buy 3 sets of armor. One to wear, one as a backup, and one as a backup for the backup. Unable to stand his indecision, Jita decided to choose the equipment for him. She helped Zera get a cool-looking set that made him appear more heroic. Zera then spent the remaining money on smoke bombs and herbs, wanting to be as prepared as possible since he didn't know what kind of monsters they might encounter. Jita reassured him not to worry, as she had chosen a town suitable for beginners as their starting point. However, Zera, being cautious, couldn't fully trust Jita's abilities. Nina quickly reassured Zera, saying that she could easily reach the neighboring town alone because there was nothing dangerous around, only slimes. Seeing Jita calling Zera a coward, Nina kindly gave him a lucky charm. Zera, suspicious, thought it might be a cursed item, making Jita cover his mouth. Just then, Nina's father appeared, apologizing for his daughter bothering them. Seeing Zera carefully store the charm away, Jita realized he wasn't as bad as she thought. It was time for them to go defeat monsters to level up. Luckily, a slime appeared just in time. However, Zera hid behind a rock, thinking it was a dangerous mutant creature. Jada had to explain that the low-level slime monsters were so weak that even an average person with a stick could take them down. Zera, wanting to demonstrate his strength, unsheathed his sword and used a powerful atomic slash to eliminate the nearby slime. To ensure it wouldn't regenerate, he even used hellfire to incinerate it completely. Not taking any chances, Zera continued to spam skills until he felt satisfied. Annoyed, Jita told him to use his analysis skill to check the slime's stats before overreacting. However, Zera, even knowing the slime was weak, didn't trust the system's information. Jita was about to suggest moving to the next town when suddenly they felt a menacing presence. A powerful aura appeared, and a figure introduced themselves as Machina, one of the 4 heavenly kings of the Demon Lord's army. The Demon Lord had detected the summoning of a hero, and had sent Machina to patrol areas with low-level monsters to ambush them. Machina knew Zera was as dangerous as the hidden warriors in many legendary tales, so she decided to eliminate him immediately. Jita used her analysis skill and was shocked by Machina's incredibly high stats. While Jita was contemplating a battle strategy, Zera decided that running away was the best plan. Zera used a smoke bomb to obscure Machina's vision and then carried Jita to dodge Machina's slash. They decided to retreat to the Divine Realm to avoid danger. Machina wasn't about to let them escape, but Jita tripped, causing them to evade the attack. Zera quickly used hellfire to slow Machina down, and Jita managed to push them through a portal. Jita ended up lying on top of Zera, thinking they might kiss, but instead, he tossed her aside like trash. Zera urged Jita to leave so he could continue training, as Machina was far stronger than the weak slime they'd encountered earlier. So, whenever Zera felt ready, he'd ring the bell. Until then, he forbade Jita from approaching him. 2 days later, Jita grew anxious and used her crystal to see what was happening. To her shock, Machina had started attacking the town, threatening to kill a resident every 10 minutes if Zera and Jita didn't show up. Jita rushed to inform Zera, but he still wasn't ready. Time moved slower there, and Zera wanted to train for 16 more hours, which was equivalent to 10 minutes in Gaban's world. At this moment, Machina's next victim was Nina's father. Jita wanted to open the portal, but Zera stopped her, saying it wasn't time yet, even though Nina might be next. He explained he wasn't afraid of Machina. He was worried that if he died, the town and possibly the world would be destroyed. Despite Jita's pleas and the impending danger to Nina, Zera insisted on being fully prepared before facing Machina. Zera continued to train, ignoring Jita's mention of the lucky charm Nina had given him. He suspected it might be cursed and blamed it for attracting powerful monsters. Frustrated, Jita regretted summoning such a coward and called him a coward before storming off. However, Zera wasn't afraid of Machina. He was worried that his death would lead to the town's and possibly the world's destruction. He insisted on being fully prepared before facing her. Jita checked and found that Zera's level had increased enough to defeat Machina. As she prepared to open the portal to the town, Zera stopped her, reminding her that Machina would kill Nina's father if they appeared too soon. Jita agreed it was a valid point, but noted Zera shouldn't hit her head again, as she worried about catching a strange virus from him. Meanwhile, Machina grew impatient and reduced the time to every 5 minutes. As she prepared to attack Nina, Zera suddenly appeared, using a wind slash. Machina dodged and mocked him for lacking honor. She didn't realize his goal was to cut Nina's bonds. He signaled for Nina and her father to escape, while Machina checked his stats. Jita was pleased to see Zera's level was now higher than Machina's. However, Machina wasn't intimidated. She unleashed her full power, her muscles bulging as all her stats skyrocketed. She charged at Zera, swinging her giant sword effortlessly. Despite this, Zera skillfully dodged her attacks using his sharp instincts. Machina decided to use her strongest move, Demon's Curse. A seasoned warrior always hides their trump card. Before Jita could understand what Machina was planning, she saw Machina suddenly stab herself with her own blade. As the sword was withdrawn, Machina's body began to transform, revealing her true monstrous form. Jita was terrified as Machina's stats now exceeded even those of the demon king of this world. Confident she could tear Zera apart with one strike, Machina charged. Jita thought Zera was doomed, but to her surprise, Zera easily blocked Machina's punch. It was then that Jita realized Zera had the ability to fake his stats. She tried to use her analysis skill to see his real stats, but Zera had concealed them well. Determined to uncover the truth, Jita strained her eyes, finally revealing Zera's incredibly powerful true stats. This meant that Zera had used his fake stats skill right after his first training session. When he first encountered Machina, his stats were already higher than hers, but he still cautiously returned to train more. Clearly, his caution was extreme. Machina decided to use all her power to summon an energy ball, intending to turn Zera and the town into ashes. To her surprise, Zera possessed the ability to fly, allowing him to easily close the distance. Not only that, he wielded a blazing sword with a high-level skill called Phoenix Flame Slash. Using this skill, Zera slashed through Machina's body, successfully defeating her and saving the town. Chadi hugging him out of joy and sneaking in a whiff of his scent, only to be chastised by Zera for fear of catching something from her. Despite this, Jita felt hurt that Zera had hidden his fake stats skill from her. Zera explained that he had learned the skill first, anticipating that enemies might read his stats and didn't even tell Jita, fearing she could be mind-read by demons. While they were bantering, the townspeople had already surrounded them, cheering for Zera as a hero and showering him with gifts. The mayor personally invited Zera to stay for a celebratory feast, but Zera declined, stating he had more work to do. Jita thought he meant going to the next town to fight evil, but instead, Zera started sweeping up Machina's ashes and repeatedly used his Hellfire skill on them to ensure she couldn't resurrect. Not stopping there, Zera used his ultimate Infernal Abyss technique to create a massive pillar of fire, causing townspeople to scatter and setting nearby shops and houses ablaze. Jita had to put out the fires, and even tended to the burnt backside of the fruit shop owner. After Zera finished, the mayor begged him to leave immediately. Jita was frustrated because they seemed more like a pair of troublemakers than heroes. She was even pelted with stones by a child. Despite nearly destroying the town, Zera and Jita were still thanked by Nina and her father for saving their lives. Zera nonchalantly took money from Nina's father, complaining it was too little and demanding more until he had taken every last coin. Nina, knowing Zera was strange, still believed he was good at heart. Jita told Nina she was half right, saying Zera was strange but not necessarily good. They quickly bid farewell to Nina and her father before heading to the next town.
Zera kept Nina's charm, even though he believed it was cursed. He said that with it, enemies would come to him, saving him the trouble of seeking them out. Jita wanted to continue to the next town, but Zera insisted on returning to the Divine Realm to train, fearing stronger foes might be sent after them. Jita refused, wanting to go to town to get better weapons and armor. Zera suggested she create them like she did with furniture, but Jita could only use her creation powers in the Divine Realm. This made Zera feel she was useless, comparing her usefulness to a burn ointment. He demanded they return to the Divine Realm so he could train until he was strong enough to defeat the Demon King, loudly proclaiming his readiness despite them heading home instead of to battle. Jita began to doubt whether following this hero was a good idea. In episode 3, Jita went to the goddess Aya to complain. Zera had enough strength to defeat a great Demon King but still insisted on non-stop training. Aya reassured her that his training had limits. Meanwhile, Jita couldn't help but stare at Aya's moodens. This made Jita even more determined to quickly conquer the challenges ahead to become a high-level goddess like Aya. Aya had saved 300 worlds but still harbored deep regret for not being able to save one. Jita thought that compared to 300, one world seemed insignificant, but for the people of that world, it was everything. The difficulty of that world was only level B, which made Aya blame herself even more for her shortcomings. To lighten the mood, Aya hurried to make some tea. At that moment, Zera arrived unexpectedly, causing Aya to drop her teacup, captivated by his appearance. She quickly introduced herself and asked why he was there. Zera explained that despite doing countless push-ups and sit-ups, his level-up progress had slowed. Jita celebrated, thinking she could finally convince him to go on adventures and fight monsters to level up. However, Zera felt that real combat was too risky and had come to request that Jita create more weights and exercise machines for his training. Jita's persistent urging only gave Zera a headache. Aya suggested asking the gods in the Divine Realm to train him, assuring that sparring would be risk-free. Zera thought it was a good idea, but Jita quickly pulled Aya aside, doubting its feasibility. Aya promised to plead with the great goddess It to get permission. Despite this, Jita and Aya, both not combat specialists, wondered how they could train Zira. Aya then proposed a god who trained tirelessly day and night, the Holy Sword Master. Aya personally went to ask for his help, while Jita sighed, feeling they were straying further from traditional adventures. Upon realizing Zira was immortal, the master warned him not to wander too much in the divine realm. Out of respect for Aya, he agreed to train Zira but warned that his program was extremely rigorous. Zira, not one to back down, boasted loudly and wanted to start immediately, insisting that the master not go easy on him. Suddenly, the dynamics between Zira and the Holy Sword Master, Sikaz, shifted in a way Jita couldn't comprehend. Nonetheless, she believed that Kusa's strength would soon crush Zira's arrogance. Both of them quickly engaged in swordsmanship training. On the first day, Jita visited the dining hall to check on Zira's progress. Sikaz admitted that Zira was formidable but still inexperienced compared to him. On the second day, when Jita inquired again, Sikaz stammered, as Zira's strength had increased significantly. Frustrated, Sikaz mentioned that if he could use his full divine power, he would have defeated Zira. By the third day, Jita noticed Sikaz sitting alone, deep in thought. He avoided discussing Zira's training and evaded her questions. When Jita pressed him further, Sikaz became angry, drawing attention from others. He apologized to Jita and left dejectedly. On the fourth day, Sikaz didn't show up at all. Jita decided to ask the kitchen staff for some seaweed to prepare a meal for Zira. While selecting ingredients, she found Sikaz sitting alone, looking despondent. He admitted to hiding and confided in Jita about Zira's relentless training. Sikaz said he had already told Zira he was strong enough, but Zira refused to stop. Every day, Zira pushed him to train more, like a demanding boss, causing Sikaz to lose sleep. Despite Sikaz claiming Zira was now 3 times stronger than him, Zira aimed to be 100 times stronger. This made Sikaz see Zira as an extreme fanatic. At that moment, Zira found Sikaz, as he had taken a long nap. Sikaz made the excuse that he was pretending to be seaweed, shocking Jita. Despite his attempts to avoid training, Zira dragged him back. In desperation, Sikaz threw his sword into a lake, but Zira still wouldn't relent. Just as Jita was about to intervene, Aya arrived with news that the great goddess Ida was looking for her. Jita had to leave Sikaz to his fate and went to see Ida. She shared Kusa's troubles with the goddess, who laughed and revealed that Sikaz was once very timid. In fact, Sikaz was a human who had been reincarnated as a god and had lost all his memories. However, deep emotions and the soul can never be lost. After Sayare was exhausted, it seemed like the weak part of his soul spilled out. The reason the goddess sent Jita here is because she wants her to go to the next town. The village they were supposed to depart from was discovered by the Demon King, so the next town is in danger. Important characters, who are Sayra's future teammates, are also there, so the goddess wants Jita to start immediately. Jita quickly goes to find Sayare to depart, but she witnesses him being violent towards his mentor, which leaves her a bit uneasy about his brutal training methods. Sayare agrees to follow Jita to Bands because he can't learn anything more from his mentor. Although the preparations are complete, the shock left by Sayare is too great, so Jita demands that he apologize before they leave. The next town they arrived at was Zimun. The undead were approaching. Zira rushed to check for information on how to defeat them and found that only fire magic or holy water would work. He went to the shop to buy some, luckily finding the shopkeeper still there because he was a slave to money. Zira tried to buy 1,000 bottles of holy water, but the shopkeeper advised against it, saying such a large amount would be cumbersome and the shop didn't have that many in stock. Zira got angry because the shopkeeper had just boasted that his shop had everything, demanding he bring out 1,000 bottles immediately. Jita intervened and cancelled the order. They took what little they could get and went to join their waiting teammates. Although Zira hoped they would be somewhat useful to him, he wasn't excited. When they arrived at a church, a priest recognized Jita and Zira as the goddess and hero who had come to save the town. He introduced them to Elyulu and Matt, 2 Dragon Clan descendants who would accompany the hero to defeat the Demon King. Zira casually poured holy water on the priest's head, shocking everyone as the priest revealed his true form as an undead, planning to kill Zira when he wasn't paying attention. But it didn't matter, as with the power granted by his master, Dima, one of the 4 heavenly kings, he would destroy them all. A nun informed Zira that the priest wasn't from the town. He attempted to attack, but his hands and body were already severed without him realizing it. The slash was so fast that even Matt, Elyulu, and Jita couldn't see it. Jita quickly asked why, and Zira explained he thought the priest, being the oldest, would inevitably become an undead, so he used holy water just to be sure. The priest informed them that Dead Ma's army of 10,000 undead would arrive the next morning to destroy the town. Jita sensed danger and quickly pulled everyone out of the area. As expected, Zira used his powerful Hellfire Inferno technique to turn the priest to dust and create a massive explosion, destroying the entire church. The nun, waking up to see the destroyed church, was heartbroken. Zira helped her up and consoled her, reassuring that they had successfully eliminated the monster. Despite his destructive tendencies, his power was undeniable. Max and Elyulu arrived and introduced themselves. As soon as Zira finished the introductions, he poured holy water on everyone's heads, including Jita. Max and Elyulu were stunned, feeling the scrutinizing gazes of Jita and Zira. Despite their stats being nowhere near Zira's level, Jita thought they still had potential. This enraged Max, while Elyulu hoped Zira could see their potential since they were still young and developing. Zira, on the other hand, believed that since they couldn't recognize the priest as an undead, they had no hope of growing stronger. Max, angered, drew his sword, wanting to challenge Zira, as he was considered a hero in his village. Just then, a group of soldiers arrived, asking about the explosion at the church. Jita was about to explain when the nun recounted how Zira, the hero, had destroyed the undead. But she did know that an army of 10,000 undead would attack the town the next morning. There were even 2 Dragon Clan heroes here to help. Hearing this, the captain bowed and begged Zira to save the town. Zira immediately asked what he would be paid, as he recently learned a new skill that required a lot of money. The captain promised that the Empire would pay him 1,000 gold coins, so Zira insisted he write it down for confirmation before heading to battle, not bothering to wait for the 200 cavalry soldiers being sent to assist. He instructed the remaining soldiers and Max to return and protect the town, but Max refused to listen, while Elyulu could only bow and chase after him. Jita worried that the two would recklessly confront the undead army, but Zira believed they weren't that foolish. And even if they were, he would have already crushed the enemy before they could. Jita warned Zira not to be so arrogant, suggesting that having more allies would be better for them. However, Zira thought it would be best if the kids and the soldiers didn't die pointlessly. Jita felt touched, thinking Zira cared about the kids. However, Zira suddenly used his flying skill, telling her to stay at the inn and wait. He flew off to fight the undead army alone. Feeling disrespected, Jita, a goddess, requested the divine realm to grant her flying abilities. The sky lit up, and she received beautiful wings. She quickly flew after Zira, but he was already used to flying and sped up. Determined, Jita pushed her wings to the limit, but they were too big and strained her back. Eventually, she had to give up. Suddenly, Zira appeared, grabbed her hand, and pulled her along, even calling her by name. This made Jita's heart flutter. Despite the taboo of love between a human and a goddess, she thought a kiss wouldn't hurt. So, Jita planned to give Zira a kiss. However, Zira suddenly sped up, leaving Jita struggling to keep up, even causing her clothes to get disheveled. Furious, Jita realized her wings were losing feathers because of him. Zira told her to quiet down as he had spotted the undead army. He planned to bomb them, but since there were no planes or bombs in this world, he used a new skill instead. Jita was shocked as he created a meteor. With one strike, he easily wiped out the undead army below. Despite its power, the skill had a long cooldown. Zira explained that he developed this technique by accident while training. To be safe, he decided to use another meteor. Jita couldn't help but think that Zira alone was enough to handle everything, making her wonder if they even needed Max and Elyulu. One more meteor like this could probably take out the Demon King too. After using the skill, Zira was exhausted. Jita caught him, knowing that such powerful magic required a lot of energy. Surprisingly, Zira still had 13,000 mana points out of his 15,000 maximum. Elyulu rushed to Jita's room, worried because Max had been missing for 2 days. Jita reassured her, saying Zira had already wiped out the undead army. However, since then, Zira had locked himself in his room, experimenting with his new fusion skill and spending all his reward money on gear. When Jita entered his room, Zira excitedly showed off a platinum sword he had created. He had fused multiple swords and increased their attack stats, using Jita's hair as a catalyst. While Jita was out, Zira had collected her fallen hair from her room. Annoyed, Jita was even more irritated when he asked for more of her hair. At that moment, the innkeeper arrived with a parcel for Zira. Suspicious of it, Zira asked Jita to open it since she was immortal. Jita opened it and found a mirror. While she was posing with it, the mirror suddenly displayed an image. Elyulu recognized the reflection as Max. A monster appeared in the mirror, introducing it as a gift from the Demon King, capable of showing images from far away. The monster was Dead Mala, one of the 4 heavenly kings, known for his ability to enhance monsters. He had remotely controlled the undead army, escaping Zira's meteor attack. To retaliate, he captured and tortured Max, planning to execute him in front of everyone. Seeing Max trying to say something, Dead Mala removed his gag. Max acknowledged Zira's strength, hoping he could take on the responsibility of saving the world. Annoyed by Max's refusal to beg for mercy, dead Mala prepared to kill him, mocking Zira for being powerless to intervene from afar. Zira calmly asked Jita to open a portal to the divine realm. He also acknowledged Max's bravery and accepted him as a true ally. Remembering the previous threats to Nina and her father, Zira had already considered various contingency plans. Just as dead Mala was about to strike, Zira used his space-cutting platinum sword to sever dead Mala's hand. He then pushed Jita and himself through the portal to the divine realm. Taking advantage of the time differential there, they planned their next move to rescue Max. Jita knew a way but warned Zira to be careful with his words. Ignoring her, Zira arrogantly demanded the High Goddess to open a portal to Max's location. Although it was against divine laws to aid humans directly, the goddess agreed, finding his reasoning convincing. She opened a portal to the forest where Max was held. However, Zira, not satisfied, demanded a portal directly to Max's cell. Before leaving, he didn't even thank her, only commenting on her usefulness. As they stepped through the portal, Zira planned to attack dead Mala while Jita aimed to rescue Max. Dead Mala, now one-handed, was in immense pain. Zira suddenly appeared, blasting him with fire, while Jita healed Max from his brutal torture. Despite being engulfed in flames, dead Mala was unharmed and summoned a shadow creature from the fire to fight. Zira's attacks were ineffective, and even holy water had no effect on the shadow. Dama boasted that the fire monster was the strongest he had created after hundreds of experiments. Jita analyzed it and found its stats were incredibly high. It was immune to physical attacks and many types of magic, except for ice magic. Dama explained that they needed to disrupt its molecular structure with a vibration wave and then attack with ice magic to penetrate its defenses. Using a multi-element skill like the vibration wave was very difficult, and ice magic was incompatible with Zira's fire abilities. Dama declared he had planned for every possible move. However, Zira found his strategy predictable, having anticipated that there would be enemies resistant to his fire attacks. Confident in his trump card, Dama commanded the fire monster to unleash its death flames. Unexpectedly, Zira charged and struck it with a vibration wave punch, a multi-element skill he had already mastered. Zira had already anticipated the possibility of his sword breaking, being stolen, or damaged. To prepare, he kept his sword sheathed and used his fists instead. Dama, wary of Zira's caution, ordered the fire monster to melt him. Zira, however, used his bare hands to retaliate, turning the monster to ice. He had equipped an item, a bracelet, that allowed him to use ice magic by fusing it with a regular bracelet and Jita's hair. Zira created various elemental bracelets for different situations. He then used his fire skills with his flaming sword to shatter the frozen monster. Seeing their victory, Jita gloated over Dama and flattered Zira. She took Max outside to give Zira and Dama some private space to talk. Afterward, Max was brought back to the inn to rest. Elyulu was relieved that Max was not left orphaned. Once they left the basement, Max fainted and was taken back to the inn to recover. Zira returned and received thanks but was indifferent. He instructed Max and Elyulu to quickly pack his belongings. Elyulu was excited about the departure, while Max realized the vast level difference between himself and Zira. He promptly dropped his pride and asked Zira to be his mentor. Max only needed to carry the luggage, so he didn't mind much. Before setting out, Max wanted to go to a place called Dragon's Cave. According to village legend, 16 years ago, a dragon prophesied that 2 children would accompany a hero to save the world from the Demon King. If they reached the cave and broke the seal, they would receive the Viper weapon. Jita was thrilled about this, but Zira hesitated, having just acquired 3 new platinum swords he hadn't used yet. Despite Jita's eagerness to set off, Zira suggested going to the Divine Realm first, which was not surprising.